This is New Game Plus, a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name's Kenny.
Nolan.
This is episode 34, and I've got a simple question for you men. What's your favorite candy bars? It doesn't have to be in the shape of a bar necessarily. I'm just talking about what is that candy that you enjoy.
Oh, that makes it a lot harder. I don't know. I feel like Nolan. Wow, I can't find his name. I feel like Nolan's going to say payday because he sounds like he's all business today.
Oh.
It's Snickers for me, actually, Kenny.
Ooh.
Is it?
You went for the hard read and you missed.
Have you ever done a frozen Snickers?
You hungry?
I have. I don't know how I feel about frozen Snickers, actually. I think I like the normal ones better, room temp.
I don't like freezing a Snickers, but I like the actual ice cream Snickers.
Oh,
yeah,
you ever had those?
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at gas
those are good.
stations.
Uh-huh.
Mine is Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Yes, that's a candy bar.
It's not a
I
Yes, it
know.
is.
Fine.
Yeah,
If you can say that, then I can say Rolos. Done. Rolos.
Okay, yeah, I'll allow it. I don't know about Dustin. Because Rolos are awesome.
I'll allow it. I don't care. Just because I don't care. I don't know if it is. Our viewers can decide. Tweet us this week. But Reese's Peanut Butter Cups come in many forms, as you know, and I like them all. Big cup, small cup, eggs, trees, bar, whatever. I love them all.
Do you like the white chocolate ones?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because that actually fits in that category of liking them all.
Okay, good. Because I like them too. They're great.
Rolos, is that caramel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're little round thingies. I don't know. They
Little
come in
round bars.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they come in a roll.
All right. Conversely, what's your least favorite candy bar?
That's hard. Like, candy is made to be delicious. And I'm sometimes a little bit of a fat kid. Alright, I'm going to go a little controversial here. Probably rock some people's boats, because occasionally I've enjoyed them, but at the moment, Kit Kats are sounding like a lot more hype than deliciousness, and you gotta snap them.
I'm
Get
with
out.
you.
Get
No,
out.
I'm with you, Kenny.
And
Get
I'm
out.
just gonna say, nope. Just give me a break. That's not even that good.
He just did that just for that purpose.
Yeah, I know.
Nolan.
I'm going to say Almond Joy. Those kind of suck. I know a lot of people like those.
I agree.
I don't like
Nouns
Almond
for me.
Joy.
Dude,
Like-
I had one this week.
Oh,
Really?
that stuff's nasty.
Yeah, it's
It
good.
really is.
man.
I take back my Kit Kat. No, fake coconut. Ha.
Dustin, what's your least favorite?
I dislike Milky Ways. And
Yeah,
like
I can see that.
I don't know. I just don't like chocolate malt nougat.
It's weird. I'll eat one, but yeah, they're kind of weird.
They're not my favorite. But I mean, everybody's got their favorites. Everybody's got their least favorites.
I'm
and
waiting with so much anticipation.
That's for them. I love Reese's. I hate the Milky Way, but that's just me. But there are at least three species that
gosh.
love the Milky Way and will fight for its complete control no matter what. So hop in the time machine with me and let's fast forward to the 25th century as we talk about the world-renowned
so
game,
bad.
StarCraft.
Overview.
I had you going like 4 different directions, but not that one. I like it. I don't.
StarCraft is a real-time strategy game centered around building up your army and technology in space combat. StarCraft was developed and published by Blizzard Entertainment, more specifically a guy named Chris Metzen and a guy named James Finney were kind of the head developers on this project. And I believe they're still at Blizzard, but they played a huge role in creating this game. This is a PC game / franchise. However, there is a port to the N64, which
don't
I'm
talk about
sure
it.
brought the game a lot of exposure at the time because PC gaming was less popular, I'd say, in 1998 when the game was released.
Definitely, yeah.
StarCraft's story follows 3, technically 4, races in space combat. The Terran, which are like futuristic humans. Zerg, which are aliens that are angry and kind of the main antagonist. The Protoss, which are the smarter aliens, a little more advanced. And it gets a little confusing, so Kenny can expand on it if he wants to. But basically, you've got the humans who are in some alien territory, like some Zerg territory, and the Zerg don't like it, so they retaliate and the humans have like this space government that they've created called the Confederacy of Man, which through this state of emergency and attack falls into the wrong hands of this crooked like politician. And it depends on which campaign you pick. You can pick between those three races what battles you will have, but the story consists of you going through the story and going from battlefield to battlefield and doing different objectives. And a huge component of StarCraft is its multiplayer features, not so much its campaign, although the campaign is good. I feel like the big draw and big appeal to StarCraft is the multiplayer that it has.
Yeah, absolutely.
StarCraft is a big deal, and was and is a big deal if you didn't know. This game is like one of Blizzard's staples on the genre, real-time strategy, and just, I mean, their company as a whole.
Yeah, and just to clarify, like Blizzard, they're the creators of Warcraft and World of Warcraft and Diablo and the new Overwatch. Like,
yeah,
they're just a powerhouse in the gaming industry.
Yeah. I'd call them a powerhouse because of how big the scope of their games are. Like World of Warcraft is Blizzard, and I mean, I think everyone's heard of that at least one time.
But quality, I mean, game after game, like they've got so many series and franchises that are just high quality. They produce really good things.
And speaking of that, StarCraft 1 was Blizzard's first like introduction of cinematics, like cutscenes, like high quality cutscenes. Yeah. And I say high quality. If you played the game with us this week, you may be laughing at me, but consider the time frame.
They absolutely were. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was impressed, and it's not like they don't do tons of cutscenes, but like in the campaign, you might see if you follow through with the Protoss, for example, or the Terrans, you're just gonna see really 2 or 3, relatively small cutscenes in that time, but still very impressive for that time.
And
a good
very
opening
quality.
cinematic as well.
Like the voice acting was quality to me. I was impressed by that almost as much as I was the fact that they had cinematics at all.
Yeah.
But there's also an expansion called The Brood War that added more content and was released later that year. Again, that was 1998. So that's StarCraft.
So it is a real-time strategy game, but it's definitely not the first of its kind. There were real-time strategy games and successful ones before this game.
Even from Blizzard, they had the original Warcraft before the original StarCraft,
which was successful in its own right.
It was absolutely successful. This was sort of we've done this and been pretty good at it. Now let's do it and be great at it. Yeah.
And early iterations of StarCraft 1 was actually it was using the Warcraft engine, the Warcraft 2 engine.
Wow. So not the first of its kind, but definitely a defining game in its genre. Kind of set the tone for what real-time strategy games would be from that moment forward. Let's get into some good stuff and talk about our gameplay experiences this week.
Gameplay. Man, this one was such a blast from the past. Like, I know I said it last week as we were hyping the fact that we were playing this game, but this is probably easily one of the games I've played the most in my life. I was a huge StarCraft hit and hadn't touched it in years.
This for you is like if we would have randomly pulled Ocarina of Time for Nolan or Final Fantasy VII for me.
Exactly. Like, easily, if there was a game that like defined my prime quote-unquote gaming years, it was StarCraft and Brood War. I even remember playing the original before the expansion came out and then having to like learn the transition and the new units and everything with that. It was great.
Nolan, you had mentioned that there are 3 different. Well, you said that there are maybe
he said there were
different
4
races.
And then he didn't say what he was arguing his fourth was, and I'm super confused.
Xel'Naga, which is like
goodness,
this really ancient race that is responsible for the Zerg and the Protoss, and it kind of backfired.
That's
and
fair.
they
play a role in the story. It's not like a playable race.
It's not playable, but it's part of the lore, so I thought I would include it for Kenny's sake.
I hope in preparation
That's
for the
fair.
podcast, y'all have read the entire book series that came out after this video game,
And
right?
played the board game.
Yeah.
There's a board game?
There's probably all sorts of stuff.
That sounds like a as terrible idea as the 64 port, which is absolutely horrible, by the way.
Is it?
Oh, absolutely.
I played it before I played the PC version, actually, and it's for those
It's
of you who
rough.
PC game, you know why we would say that, because the way you control it is just so intuitive on PC and just so not on anything else.
Real-time strategy of that complexity is just really hard to port over to something like that.
So minus that additional fourth race, you can play one of the three, Protoss, Zerg, or Terrans, and I felt that they were pretty well balanced, and and that's a problem, and that's something that you've got to really fight for in these kind of real-time strategies, that if you have races, that they've got to be balanced so that you know not everybody's just going for a single race to try to trounce their enemies. But it seemed
Absolutely.
like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kenny, you have so much more experience with this game, but Protoss, they had kind of advanced upgrades and tech, and their units are expensive to produce, but they are powerful. And the Zergs, they seemed like they were weaker, but their units were also cheaper, and so you could just build a lot quickly and possibly even do a Zerg rush. And then the Terrans, they were kind of more of the balance between the two, and they had some special techs and capabilities of their own. Is that kind of fair?
Absolutely. For just a sort of broad overview, I think that hits it well. It really is a crazy balanced game, especially considering the diversity of those different classes. You know, you see some games that it's like class differences are one or two like heroes or one or two unique techs, like in an Age of Empires situation or something. And even that can be hard to balance, but these like fundamentally work in completely different ways. And they had to be balanced to compete against any version, like a Zerg versus a Zerg, or a Zerg versus a Terran, or a Zerg versus a Protoss, all had to be pretty equitable and winnable. And they did a stunningly good job of it, all things considered.
And so you can play a campaign mode with each of these different races.
Right.
And I believe that they're divided into 3 episodes for each race, but then with the expansion, that's 3 more episodes for each race. So 6 total for each race.
Yeah, so a good amount of single-player content for sure.
And they each have their unique story, their unique characters, and their unique outcomes, which are totally contrary to one another. So if you choose one, then it's going to affect the other races because they're all in. I mean, that's the story.
Yeah, they definitely did it right. You see some multiplayer games who shoot to like just be multiplayer, and they knew that was going to be in game here, is get people on Battle.net and playing. They still included a really good story.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was pretty impressed by the amount of content in this game, being a quote unquote retro, since we're going by 15 years, whatever. But it's got a lot to do in the game
A ton
for
to do.
being known for multiplayer. You still have, like, if you don't have friends, you can still play plenty of content. Speaking of that, I would just like to share what happened to me this week with our viewers.
This is going to be one-sided.
Okay, so which race did you guys play this week? I want to know that.
I played a little bit of everything.
Okay, of course you did.
I only played with Zerg, and I will never switch.
Great. I didn't
glad.
play any race.
Played Raceless?
I played Raceless. Oh, in fact, I didn't play the game. At least not with friends.
Tell them the story.
I don't really want to. They ditched me. That's basically the story.
Okay, here we go.
Listen, no. Okay,
No.
In Discord, we all reside. We're talking. We're chatting. Okay, let's try and figure out how to play StarCraft 1 with each other, because it wasn't easy. Go through hoops, install viruses, get it working, and then we're all in, trying to get in the game. Dustin joins Kenny. Great. I try to connect, and I get an error that says that my bandwidth is too low, which is bull. I have great internet. And then instead of saying, okay, let's keep trying to figure this out, I walk away and come back, and I hear them talking about the game, and I said, "What are you doing?" And they're playing against one another. They ditched me. They did not even let me play with them.
Kenny, do you want to explain?
You clarify.
There's nothing else.
Yes, there is else. Okay, first of all, we got to take a step back because this game is set up to play on Battle.net. That's what everybody played on back in the day. It was a free online service that they could use to play other people in StarCraft, or you could play LAN, a local area network, and so you could play in the same location. But as you can imagine, since this is many years ago, that is no longer available. So you've got to come up with you've got to come up with a different way to play one another, and as Nolan said, it's not easy, so we had to do all sorts of weird things. Kenny did pretty much have me download a virus, but we got it to work. But
Sounds so much worse than it was.
Nolan wasn't able to get in the room to play with us, and we tried multiple times, not just once. And then while we're sitting there waiting for Nolan to do it again, I have no control over the game. I've never played the game before, and then I start hearing a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and then it plays this music before, which is awesome.
Okay,
and then we're in a game.
Kenny started the game. I didn't realize that, but I'm not surprised. I was shocked that Dustin let it happen. I'd never do that to Dustin.
I didn't know what to do, but here's the reality. We played a 6.5 minute game, but by that time Nolan was done, and he had uninstalled StarCraft, sold his computer at the market, and was on.
And it was all justified.
and refused to play with us. This is the first time he's talking to us since that day.
I'm hurt, and the viewers. The viewers understand. I know they've got to be disappointed in you guys.
Can I clarify here? It was a little shady, but it genuinely wasn't going to work. And this quote-unquote virus that you guys kept talking about,
you're just
Nolan,
deviating from the topic.
In total fairness and rightness, wasn't comfortable downloading something to get the game working that he wasn't familiar with. So we still got him on with more manual workarounds. But it seemed pretty clear that he wasn't going to be able to play since the system wasn't letting him play. And so I didn't think that there was a solution, and I was jonesing so bad. I love this game, and it's not an apology or an excuse, and we were rude and should have got you working. But I did have fun a lot.
No, that's the reality there. Kenny was so antsy to play that he bubbling over, and as soon as he got the chance, he was in, no matter how damaging that was to relationships.
Well, it sucks because I like this game and it would have been fun, but it
would have.
But now it's not getting his new game plus seal of approval.
Oh no, I'm destroying it for Kenny, to spite Kenny. And Dustin, I haven't thought of a punishment for you yet, but
oh gosh, I was held captive. I had no control over any of that.
I'll take the blame on this one. I was the jerk.
Let me explain. Let's talk about our first battle, the one that we're talking about right now.
I'm out.
No, because Nolan's making it sound like it was this big grand thing that we did without him. This was our first battle. It was just me and Kenny, as we've already explained.
I didn't realize that Dustin had barely played this game, if at all, first. I figured he'd played some campaign at this point, and he may have, but I don't think he did. And so we start a game, the two of us versus two computer opponents, which shouldn't be too difficult. I'm Terran. And so I decide I want to make this fairly easy on somebody who's not good at the game, and so I'm going to take out one computer opponent early. And I look down, and Dustin has sent his worker drones, his initial harvest your minerals to build up an economy and function at all. He's just sent his worker drones to the enemy's base to go fight them.
Yeah, they made it all the way across.
Because he's heard the idea that when you're Zerg, you're supposed to rush, but has no idea what that means. And so hasn't built drones and isn't sending Zerglings to go fight early. He's just getting his workers slaughtered by running into another base. And so I'm trying to not only play the game but teach him at the same time. And I'm laughing really hard because he's so confused. And we end up losing this game terribly because there's one of us and two computers, which should even be doable easily. but it just all goes wrong and was over in literally like 5 minutes.
But my Zerg Overlord did make it all the way across the map into enemy territory, so there's
That's
that.
true, and you thought you were doing work.
And if we can be honest here, the ending numbers said that Kenny lost 30 units like a scrub, and I only lost 4. So
Yeah.
there's something with that.
I realize now, I know why Kenny refused to play with me. It's because he was scared of losing to me.
That's not
Because what
true.
he doesn't know
Oh,
is that
my
I'm actually
goodness.
pretty sick at this game.
Oh,
believe it.
you can't talk trash like that. We're gonna have
Uh-oh.
to play.
Oh, no, we're
Oh.
not.
I know.
Apparently
I'm gonna
we're
have
not.
to- we will. I'll make it up to you somehow. I'll get the game working, sans viruses, and then I'll pay you money.
Hey, so we didn't talk about the campaign editor.
Oh, which ended up being a huge part of the popularity of this game. By no means the driving thing, but in its
No.
heyday, there were more people playing like mods of this game than maybe playing normal versions of the game.
Yeah, brilliant concept.
Absolutely.
It's just where users can create their own maps and then they can share that with others online. Simple.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But huge.
Very huge. And not just their own maps in terms of like landscape, but interactive kinds of stuff. You know, editing the stats of units and the titles of things and the
Location of
opening
resources.
screen. Yeah, location of resources, triggers for things that happen in the world. So people created their own little RPGs within the StarCraft engine, their own modified versions of the game, their own arena type games. You know, there were games that were sort of like MMOs and tower defense games and like tons of really popular user-generated games within the game itself.
it's really brilliant.
It really
for a
is.
1998 game. Like, it's ingenious.
Yeah.
Some of our viewers wanted to know this week what each of our individual favorite race was.
I'm Terran.
You are Terran.
I'm Terran, and I fight for the human race. No, I like the balance of Terran. I don't feel stressed out when I play Terran. Zerg is a little intimidating to me because I'm not that familiar with the build order. Because the build order varies, like, depending on who you're playing against, and I don't know all that. But Terran, I feel like, you know, I can go at my own pace, and I can still build up a nice army and tech and still be okay. I guess it's because I have the most experience with them, but Terran
Sure.
is my favorite.
My race was Zerg, and Zerg rushing was my tactic. And so I was really good. In this game, it sets them up to kind of be the villains. I mean, they're really evil in the campaign. There's this evil eye that is your boss that's telling you what to do. And so those are the enemies. And honestly, I'll be honest here. If I were to play this game again, then I would probably go Protoss just because they looked really sweet. And I love the cleanliness and I don't know, just that kind of advanced upgrade type stuff that they produced. But I only played Zerg this week. Just, I don't know, because I felt like because the only thing that I knew about StarCraft was Zerg rushing, and so for whatever reason, I thought that I needed to
I love
do
that.
that. Kenny, do you want to copy me, or what's your favorite?
You know, I'll go even more hipster and not copy you. Though I would say before we even played, just knowing personalities, I had a feeling that if you had played enough of the game, that you're right, you would have been a Protoss player. Nolan, the way you interact with games, I'm not surprised at all that you're a Terran player. And I definitely played more Zerg in my day than anything else. But I'll
yours
give
is
the
Zelda.
hipster answer and say I pick random. That slight advantage of your enemy not knowing which race you're gonna be sometimes could turn a game.
So your answer to your favorite race is random.
Uh-huh.
Viewers, that shouldn't surprise you.
It shouldn't.
So this game came out in 1998, so it's been 18 years? Is that how math works?
Yes.
Holy cow. It's been an adult since 98. I just felt really old, Dustin. Thanks for that.
Okay, so now you're letting this child out of your house to go to college to enjoy life on their own. They're not going to come back and live with you anymore. StarCraft is leaving to go be its own adult. As you look at this child now, as he or she walks out of your house,
Are you proud of them?
are you proud of him? And what are you noticing has changed or has developed or has remained the same? What are some great things? What are some bad things? How have you felt that your son or daughter has aged?
Wow.
Gosh, that's so long.
I know. I admit.
You're trying way too hard. That was the verbal equivalent of you trying to play StarCraft effectively.
Oh, that's really true, actually.
I think that StarCraft has aged so well. We didn't really mention, but StarCraft 2 has since come out very recently, 3 years ago, I believe. And, I mean, it's still played a lot, and that's kind of taken StarCraft 1's place. It's played competitively, like, worldwide. It's a really big competitive scene, and esports, actually. Like, a lot of money is put towards esports events and winnings and competitions, and I definitely feel and know that it's in part it's because of StarCraft 1's competitive landmark that it had, and I can still play StarCraft 1 and almost maybe like it more than StarCraft 2 just because of nostalgia and the feel of the game. I think it looks great, and I think it plays great, and the campaign editor, along with how much content there is single player and multiplayer, if you have friends that love you enough to play with you, I think that it's aged wonderfully, and I now want to play StarCraft 2.
And just so you know, StarCraft 2 came out 6 years ago.
6 years
about,
ago?
Yeah, double the time you thought.
It seems recent, but it's been quite a while.
I feel like there was some expansion that came out 3 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah, there have been at least 2 expansions, maybe 3.
That's crazy.
So games such as these, I feel like, can get by with so much because they were never about stellar graphics or impeccable audio. You know, like they aren't necessarily built around a compelling story. For these types of games, it's really all about gameplay. And so easily StarCraft holds up there, but and you will feel some limitations, and I think we do have to point out that it has aged in the sense that you can't play online anymore. You know,
you can
in an easy way.
There's just not a lot of
No, you can't.
community there. Like if you if you have the game and buy it legit, you can get on BattleNet and just play, but there's nobody there. You know, it's just a ghost town. So if you're wanting to get people to play against, that's really what we ran into primarily.
Yeah.
You gotta do the other stuff.
But the lasting legacy of this game causes like these small aging factors that you may notice to disappear entirely. Like this game alone, there's so much history with this game. So many people played this game. It was like a landmark game. It's been into space. Like literally, one of the astronauts that went into space took this game with him so that he could either play it or so that it could be in space. It's been the subject of an academic course at college. It has been part of the U.S. Air Force's air and space training, which is kind of scary that they would use a battle game with terrible aliens as their training. Like,
Zerg
what are we actually facing?
You say that, but you've also heard the anecdote that for a long time, Ender's Game was a book that they read through in the military.
Yeah.
And that's also one of our favorite things in the entire universe, and has terrible aliens.
Yeah, that is. I think that first-time players will notice some age, but if you're any kind of fan of this real-time strategy, this is probably, and this is coming from someone that doesn't particularly love these type of games, that StarCraft is probably one of the best real-time strategy games that you'll ever play.
Yeah. And I would even say, like, if you are a fan of sci-fi and you maybe kind of play video games or maybe you don't, I think I think you could really love this game just based on like
just even playing through
the
single
setting
player
and the lore.
and the because they did a good job with the campaign.
All right, Kenny, gush.
Okay, this game is so good. Like if they again, and we're talking about age, and it really did. Like it stayed active and vibrant until StarCraft 2 came out, and then a lot of that community just migrated. And kind of the face of gaming really was shifting then in terms of expectations of graphics and those kind of things. But this is definitely one of those games that's just timeless. I didn't realize how easy it was going to be to sit down and feel familiar and even have like hotkeys and build sequences and things come back to me. I figured I'd get online and play with people. I played a little bit with non-you guys folks as well. And that I'd get online and just have lost the game after 10 years of play and was actually able to compete and win games. And it's just such a good game. If they had gone back, and I know they wouldn't have because sort of economic reasons initially get people to play StarCraft 2, but this is one of those games that if they went back and put vibrant support on Battle.net, on making sure the game was played, legit and people weren't hacking and it had a full Blizzard support and had just an HD reskin, no other changes, and they released it, this game would get insanely big again, I think, because it's just so classic.
The final shell shock.
Which leads us to our summary section where the three of us either the two of us, Nolan and I, either make friends with Kenny or get to
or I quit the show.
Or he quits the show and our friendship. We are going to give out or revoke our New Game Plus status or seal of approval. We do this as individuals, but we must have 2 or 3 that agree for it to be a New Game Plus game. And if so, then it will receive our seal of approval. If not...
I'll start because I'm easy, and you guys know, this is my game, my jam. It's a great game that I haven't even begun to say enough about. I'm literate today in my excitement, and of course it gets New Game Plus. If I could hoard some of my New Game Pluses from other games and save them and give them to this, I would.
Dustin, you go next.
It would be funnier if you went and said no, but I will go and say that yes, it does receive my New Game Plus seal of approval, although it's not my favorite genre and I'm generally terrible at real-time strategy games. I can confidently say that StarCraft is one of the most important video games of all time, and I feel like it set the tone for all future real-time strategy games. And it definitely gets my New Game Plus status.
And I'm going to say absolutely. My beef is not with the game. My beef is with these two guys. It's an amazing game, and I couldn't discredit the game. But just know that when I think of StarCraft 1 from now on, I will have bad thoughts, and that's on y'all. But I'll leave that and let that settle with y'all. But yeah, I give this game my New Game Plus.
Was this the genesis of esports? Like, didn't this have a community that got together and played?
I believe so.
Absolutely.
Or was Warcraft? Did Warcraft get together and they play in huge rooms?
I feel like StarCraft had a bigger impact on that scene.
Yeah, not on the level that StarCraft did.
I think esports has a lot to thank and look back to in regards to StarCraft.
I agree.
Yeah, no doubt. And Blizzard being able to support that, and Koreans being crazy fanatical enough to actually watch and be entertained by that, and it be culturally acceptable there, and a lot of the things that sort of lined up.
We had a good amount of viewer feedback this week, as you could imagine. Here's just a few of them. Eric has sent us a message on Facebook, as he does weekly, and we really appreciate that. He said, StarCraft is one of those games I heard lots about but never tried it. It might come to the fact that I was an Age of Empires snob, or that it was just too futuristic. In any case, I now realize the error of my way. It's a really fun game. I played through a few levels, and if time permitting, I would have played more. I played the N64 version, so I'm willing to bet it's much better on the PC.
Significantly.
The controls were a bit tricky without awkward controller. The sound was bland, and the sayings got a little old. You want a piece of me, boy? Even with all of that, it was an enjoyable experience, so I guess it's time to break the non-seal of approval skid.
I'm glad. Eric, you've seen the light, and you're a better person for it.
Jeremiah wrote, memories. StarCraft was my first game. I played it when I was like 3 years old. The game was so mysterious. I had trouble understanding everything about the game back then, and it felt more of like an exploration adventure to me, which is why it first took me a day or two to beat a single campaign. I was always too scared about what I might encounter.
Yeah, I love the nostalgia about this game too. Like for me, playing it brought back a lot of memories when I first played this game, and it just reminds me so much of playing games with my brother, and I love that about this game.
Playing the Zerg campaign, I was really, really impressed because, like I said earlier, these games are typically not about their campaign. Like even Halo, like campaign's okay, but people play it to play, and Halo's a totally different game. But so let's just go back to real-time strategy games. Those are not about the campaign.
Right.
Nobody bought Age of Empires 2 for the campaign.
It's competitive.
Yeah, it's competitive. But these campaigns are actually fun and have a good story and good
substance.
Voice acting. And the Zerg one is really dark and fairly scary. Like, and so it was a lot of fun. And I understand of just being placed on a map with an objective and there being a fog, around the map so that you can't see. And it's intimidating and scary to go out there and try to adventure around. So I know what you're saying, Jeremiah. Thank you for the comment. We got an email from Andrew at ngppodcast@gmail.com. He said, I love StarCraft. It has a very special place in my heart. This game is about as old as I am, and I've been playing it and Brood War and the second one and all of its expansions for about as long, even before I had any idea of how to actually play strategy games. My true appreciation for StarCraft comes from the fact that it was basically the birth of esports. This is important to me because I follow many esports today, StarCraft 2, League of Legends, soon to be Overwatch, etc., that may not even exist if this game didn't pave the way. Not even considering multiplayer, which is where this great game truly shines. This game is hard. I wouldn't say it's difficult to understand because it eases you into the mechanics and gameplay slowly and gives you clear objectives, but I would say that in my opinion, this game is probably the hardest to master. I know that Dustin and Nolan already aren't fond of RTS games because of all the micromanagement that is required, and I don't know if an RTS exists that requires more micro than StarCraft. Another thing this game succeeds so well in is the uniqueness and balance of the races. I'll admit there was some balancing problems in the multiplayer of the base game, but Brood War remedied most of this. This is just an incredible game that I feel like everyone should try their hands at least once.
You're so right about esports. Like not just RTS esports or StarCraft specifically, but like all esports need to thank this game because it did pave the way for like video games being respected enough to be a spectator sport, if you want to call it that, because before that, I mean, there had to be some game that garnered an interest and a culture behind it, and League of Legends and Call of Duty and all these games, I mean, really owe it to this early game.
You can maybe argue that first-person shooters would have gotten there on their own at some point, but as a whole, across the board, and especially considering the root of League of Legends, and somebody had to have a game that was easy enough to understand and fun enough to watch, accessible enough to everyone but with a high enough skill cap, and even and balanced enough that you could have people who were so good at the game that it justified paying them for the entertainment value they brought. And to my knowledge, StarCraft is one of the first to do that at all, or at least to do it as well as it did. And huge impact.
One other email from our friend Antonin. He said, I used to play this game as a kid with my brother. In fact, I spent my chicken pox playing it over LAN with him with my dad's work computer and our home computer. It was quite an awesome experience. I absolutely loved the game, except the competitive aspect. After Dustin beat me horribly at Age of Empires 2, I realized that I never really played real-time strategies in a PvP setting. Against a computer was one thing, but the competitive scene was way different and totally ruined these games for me.
Wow.
And I remember not being the only one that felt this way. A friend of mine that introduced me to StarCraft told me a few months later that the online gameplay boiled down to a couple of predictable strategies that took the fun out of playing the game. He learned the strategies and his friends didn't want to play him afterwards. And then it was all about click speed. The game was not balanced out well for competitive play, but I did enjoy the story and lore aspect of the game. I hope you guys liked it too.
That's an interesting take on it because we've been gushing over how awesome the competitive aspect of it is.
It does fundamentally change it, though, when you're playing a game competitively and you get into an online environment and either you have that knowledge to compete or a desire to learn, what builds work, what to do in this case against this case. And though that is fairly static, it is also really dynamic.
Yeah, like if you play against a player who also knows those strategies, you get into the meta of the game and like how to deal with a good player who knows the same strats.
Like it wouldn't have been fun for
game.
you guys if, like Dustin, if our multiplayer experience, if instead of playing against computers, I'd just been like 1v1 me, yo, and just, walked on you over and over again and laughed. Like it wouldn't have been fun. And a lot of people jump into a game like this that's established, and until you get to that point where you know what's going on, it kind of feels like that, Either you've learned the game or you haven't, and that can be a tough thing. But that's true of any complex enough to be interesting, in my view, competitive game.
Well, I'm glad you got to enjoy your precious baby again this week. And maybe, just maybe, viewers, you can set something up with Kenny and he'll play you this week on Battle.net. I don't think that would...
Yeah,
or he might promise you that he will and then just go on without you.
If you guys want to play some multiplayer, shoot an email, let me know. Hit us up on social media. I would love to have an excuse to still play this game.
Nolan definitely won't, and you wouldn't want to play with me because I'll just Zerg rush you and you'll die immediately. So.
Your 4 drones will take over my base all by themselves.
Goodbye, StarCraft. Goodbye. We're not randomly selecting a game this week. Why not?
Why not?
Why aren't we selecting a game? That's stupid. We always select a game. What's the deal?
That was good acting. We have a guest next week.
Who?
His name is Ken Gagney. I hope I pronounced that last name right. He is a self-proclaimed Apple II geek. We are excited to have him, and he has chosen an Apple II game for us to enjoy this week.
Got to dust off the old Apple II?
A 1983 title called Lode Runner. Lode. Lode Runner.
I have heard of this game. The title sounds familiar.
Yeah, and he picked it purposefully to be something that our viewers and us three would be able to pick up and play easily, and that in a week's time we'd be able to get a good idea of what this game is and enjoy an old retro video game. So, we're really excited about this, really excited to have him on the show because he's got so much knowledge that we lack when it comes to retro video gaming, and it's going to be awesome to have that kind of intellect and wisdom when it comes to some of these retro games and systems that we can just pick his brain for about 45 minutes next week. We are really looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And I don't want to spoiler alert, but he did pick a good one. So you guys pick this game up, find a way to play it this week. I do not think you'll regret it.
Just a reminder that we've got a NGP podcast Steam group. So if you've got Steam, find us, search us. And we've been having conversations with some of our viewers in there this week. And we'd love to play some video games with you. We probably won't be able to play Lode Runner together this week, but we could play some other games together. So make sure to hit us up there, and we'll definitely try to connect with you throughout the week. We've got social media, Twitter and Facebook. You can listen directly to us on SoundCloud or iTunes. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe, and we'd love for you to share the gift of NGP this holiday season.
Holiday?
This is the end of our episode, so I've got to take these guys out with a Zerg Rush. Until then, I'm still Dustin.
I still will never lose to your Zerg Rush.
I'm still pissed off.
And this has been New Game Plus.